As hundreds of employees are let go from Stellantis, many are wondering what impact this will have on the auto industry.
How did Jeep, a brand trusted for generations, fall from grace? What Stellantis has done will leave you questioning everything. Jeep, the once undisputed king of off-road vehicles, is now destroyed. Stellantis, its parent company, promised innovation and success, but instead it left a trail of broken promises, unhappy customers, and angry workers. What choices pushed Jeep to the brink of collapse? How did Stellantis' strategies backfire so dramatically? And most importantly, why does this matter to anyone who drives a Jeep or wants to? Stay tuned, because this downfall is worse than you think. Jeep wasn't just a car brand, it was a cultural icon. From its origins in 1914 as a rugged military vehicle to becoming the go-to car for adventurers, Jeep's reputation was unmatched. Customers trusted it to handle anything: muddy trails, steep hills, or everyday commutes. But all of that changed with the Wagoneer's reintroduction in 2021. This luxury SUV was supposed to be a celebration of Jeep's heritage while taking the brand into the future. Instead, it became a public relations nightmare. Buyers reported issues within days: leaks, dashboard vibrations, and misaligned components. For a car priced at over $100,000, these problems weren't just disappointing, they were unforgivable. Customers weren't the only ones noticing the decline. Behind the scenes, employees revealed troubling stories of rushed production and ignored quality checks. "We knew there were problems," admitted one former worker, "but stopping the line wasn't an option." So what went wrong? The answer lay not in the assembly lines, but in the boardrooms of Stellantis, the new parent company pulling the strings. In 2021, Jeep became part of Stellantis, a global automaker formed through the merger of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Group. At first glance, the merger seemed like a win. Stellantis was now the fourth largest automaker in the world, boasting an impressive lineup of brands, including Chrysler, Dodge, Peugeot, Citroën, and Jeep. But the reality was far from glamorous. For Jeep, the merger marked the beginning of an identity crisis. Stellantis, a multinational conglomerate with conflicting priorities, saw Jeep as just another cog in its vast machinery. The rugged, dependable Jeep brand suddenly found itself competing for attention with European luxury cars and compact city vehicles. The immediate changes were striking. Durable steel components in vehicles like the Wagoneer were swapped for cheaper plastic parts. Assembly lines were pressured to prioritize speed over quality. Jeep's distinct identity, once its greatest strength, was being diluted. For customers, the contrast between Jeep's legacy and its new reality was jarring. "This isn't the Jeep I grew up with," lamented one longtime owner. But these changes weren't just superficial, they were symptoms of deeper problems within Stellantis. At the heart of Stellantis' strategy was its CEO, Carlos Tavares. Known for his ruthless efficiency, Tavares earned his reputation under Carlos Ghosn, the controversial former CEO of Renault-Nissan. Ghosn was infamous for his aggressive cost-cutting measures, and Tavares followed in his footsteps, becoming a turnaround expert who prioritized profits above all else. Under Tavares' leadership, Stellantis adopted a relentless focus on cutting costs and boosting shareholder returns. For Jeep, this approach was catastrophic. Tavares viewed Jeep not as an iconic brand with decades of heritage, but as a vehicle for profit maximization. His policies led to drastic layoffs, plant closures, and production budget cuts. Belvedere Assembly Plant, a vital part of Jeep's operations, was shuttered, leaving thousands of workers without jobs and entire communities struggling to recover. At Warren Truck, where the Wagoneer is built, the workforce was slashed, and those who remained faced intensified workloads with fewer resources. Morale among workers plummeted. Former employees spoke out about declining standards and how quality became secondary to cost savings. This trickled down to Jeep's customers, who began noticing glaring defects in vehicles that once stood for reliability. Financially, Stellantis thrived. In 2023, the company reported $18 billion in profits, paid $7 billion in dividends, and rewarded Tavares with nearly $40 million, making him one of the highest paid CEOs in the auto industry. But this success came at the expense of Jeep's reputation. Loyal customers who had stood by Jeep for years started walking away. They no longer recognized the brand they once trusted. Tavares' obsession with numbers left Jeep with a crumbling identity and a fading presence in the marketplace. Yet Stellantis wasn't done alienating Jeep's core audience. Its decision to reposition the brand as a luxury player marked the next critical misstep. One of Stellantis' most baffling decisions was repositioning Jeep as a luxury brand. For decades, Jeep's audience was clear: middle-class Americans who valued ruggedness, reliability, and affordability. Jeep wasn't about status symbols, it was about capability. Vehicles that could handle mountain trails just as easily as morning commutes. Stellantis, however, decided to change that. Vehicles like the Wagoneer were priced far beyond the reach of Jeep's traditional customers. The 2022 Wagoneer's sticker price reached a staggering $80,000, almost double the price of Jeep's 2014 Grand Cherokee. At these prices, Jeep wasn't just competing with its traditional rivals, it was going head-to-head with luxury brands like BMW and Mercedes. The problem? Stellantis didn't deliver luxury-level quality. Customers who paid premium prices for the Wagoneer expected flawless performance and design. Instead, they found themselves dealing with water leaks, squeaky dashboards, and poorly aligned components. These weren't minor issues. They were deal breakers for buyers who expected more from a car priced over $100,000. Loyal Jeep customers felt betrayed. The brand they had trusted for years no longer reflected their values. Meanwhile, Stellantis' attempt to appeal to luxury buyers fell flat. Jeep wasn't built to compete in the luxury space, and it showed. This shift didn't just hurt sales, it eroded Jeep's core identity. A brand once synonymous with rugged independence and all-American durability now felt out of touch and over-commercialized. Stellantis' gamble alienated its base while failing to attract a new audience, leaving Jeep stuck between worlds, a shadow of its former self. The consequences of Stellantis' cost-cutting measures rippled far beyond the Jeep assembly lines. For the thousands of workers who had dedicated their lives to building Jeep vehicles, Stellantis' decisions were more than just business strategy, they were life-altering. When the Belvidere assembly plant was shuttered, it marked the end of an era for both its workers and the surrounding community. This plant, which had operated since the early 1960s, was more than just a workplace. It was the lifeblood of Belvidere, Illinois. For decades, the plant employed thousands of people, providing stable jobs that supported local families and fueled the community's economy. Small businesses such as restaurants, barbershops, and grocery stores depended on the steady flow of plant workers. When Stellantis closed the plant, the impact was devastating. Over 2,000 workers were laid off, and countless others in the area saw their livelihoods crumble as local businesses lost their customers. Workers described the closures as a betrayal. Many had spent decades on the line, producing vehicles that symbolized American craftsmanship. They believed in Jeep and the values it stood for. One longtime employee expressed the collective frustration, saying, "We built these cars with pride. Now we're being tossed aside like we never mattered." The layoffs didn't stop there. At Warren Truck Assembly, where the Wagoneer is produced, Stellantis slashed nearly half the workforce, cutting costs at the expense of the people who kept the brand alive. Those who remained on the job faced increasingly unrealistic production quotas and declining morale. Many felt disillusioned, wondering how much longer their jobs would be secure. The human cost of these decisions wasn't confined to economic hardship. The emotional toll on displaced workers and their families was immense. For many, Jeep wasn't just a job, it was part of their identity. When Stellantis prioritized shareholder profits over its people, it severed a bond that had taken decades to build. But these weren't the only consequences of the company's decisions. The ripple effects extended far beyond the workforce, affecting the broader automotive industry and the communities that had relied on Jeep for generations. Stellantis' relentless focus on cost-cutting didn't just harm Jeep, it sent shockwaves through the entire automotive industry. Rivals like Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and Tesla closely watched Stellantis' actions, weighing their implications for the future of American manufacturing. Stellantis' decisions exposed the challenges of balancing cost efficiency with brand integrity, and other automakers took note. One of the most glaring effects was the disruption to the supply chain. Stellantis factory closures and layoffs caused ripple effects that stretched far beyond the Jeep brand. Suppliers who depended on contracts with Stellantis found themselves scrambling to stay afloat. Smaller businesses that specialized in producing components for Jeep vehicles, such as steel frames and electrical systems, suddenly faced a sharp decline in orders. Some had to shut down entirely, leaving even more workers without jobs. Meanwhile, competitors capitalized on Jeep's missteps. Ford Motor Company in particular leaned into its reputation for durability and innovation, highlighting its investments in electric vehicle technology and affordable models. General Motors followed a similar path, emphasizing its American roots and commitment to creating quality vehicles. Tesla, the rising star of the automotive world, continued to dominate the electric vehicle market, further positioning itself as the future of the industry. But the contrast was stark. While Stellantis chased short-term profits, its rivals focused on building long-term trust with their customers. This strategic divergence underscored a growing divide in the industry. Companies that embraced innovation and sustainability were thriving, while those that prioritized cost-cutting risked losing relevance. Stellantis' decisions also reignited a national conversation about the state of American manufacturing. For decades, the automotive sector had been a cornerstone of the United States economy, providing stable jobs and driving technological advancement. But as more companies moved production overseas or cut corners to reduce expenses, many began questioning whether the industry could maintain its position as a global leader. Jeep's struggles became a symbol of this broader issue. Once a proud representation of American resilience, Jeep was now seen by many as a cautionary tale. The consequences of Stellantis' actions were felt not just in boardrooms or factory floors, but in the trust of millions of loyal customers who had once looked to Jeep as a symbol of reliability. If Stellantis underestimated the importance of Jeep's customer base, the results proved catastrophic. Jeep's loyal customers, who had trusted the brand for decades, were the backbone of its success. For many, Jeep wasn't just a car, it was a lifestyle. Owners took pride in their vehicles, seeing them as rugged, capable companions that could handle anything from off-road trails to family road trips. But Stellantis' decisions alienated this core audience, sparking an exodus that Jeep has yet to recover from. One of the most glaring mistakes Stellantis made was its pricing strategy. By positioning the Wagoneer and other models as luxury vehicles, Stellantis priced Jeep out of reach for many of its traditional customers. The Wagoneer's price tag, which started at nearly $80,000, was nearly double that of the Grand Cherokee from just a decade earlier. This drastic shift wasn't just about the price, it was about what customers expected for that price. Luxury buyers, accustomed to the craftsmanship of brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMW, were quick to point out the Wagoneer's flaws. Reports of water leaks, dashboard vibrations, and squeaky components circulated widely, tarnishing Jeep's image. These weren't just minor complaints, they were deal breakers for customers paying over $100,000 for a vehicle. Many buyers felt they weren't getting the quality they deserved, and their dissatisfaction was loud and public. Traditional Jeep customers, meanwhile, felt abandoned. For decades, Jeep had been a symbol of affordability and rugged dependability, but Stellantis' focus on high-margin vehicles left this loyal audience behind. Owners who had once seen Jeep as an extension of their identity now felt like outsiders. They turned to other brands that better understood their needs, such as Ford, with its continued emphasis on utility and value. The fallout was evident in Jeep's sales numbers. Dealerships reported an alarming increase in inventory as vehicles sat unsold for months. Average selling days for Jeep models soared, painting a grim picture of the brand's declining relevance. Customers who had once been Jeep's strongest advocates were now its harshest critics, sharing their frustrations online and urging others to avoid the brand. This wasn't just a failure in customer retention, it was a full-blown identity crisis. Jeep had lost touch with what made it great, and Stellantis' leadership seemed unable or unwilling to address the problem. The customer exodus was a stark reminder that loyalty is earned over decades but can be lost in an instant. The cumulative effect of Stellantis' decisions left Jeep in an existential crisis. For decades, Jeep's identity was clear. It was a brand for adventurers, families, and everyday drivers who valued toughness and dependability. But under Stellantis, Jeep became something else entirely, a brand struggling to find its place in a rapidly changing automotive landscape. The attempt to reposition Jeep as a luxury brand was a gamble that failed on multiple fronts. By targeting high-end buyers, Stellantis alienated Jeep's core audience while failing to capture the loyalty of luxury consumers. The result was a brand stuck in limbo, unable to fully embrace either identity. This crisis wasn't just about marketing, it was about values. Jeep's traditional customers had come to expect vehicles that could withstand the toughest conditions, from muddy trails to snowy roads. But the vehicles Stellantis produced undercut these expectations. Cost-cutting measures led to compromises in quality, and customers noticed. Features that once set Jeep apart were now glaring weaknesses. The shift also had cultural implications. Jeep, once synonymous with American grit and ingenuity, now felt disconnected from its roots. For many, Jeep was no longer the go-anywhere vehicle that symbolized freedom and resilience. It was an overpriced product of corporate greed. The larger question was whether Jeep could recover. Could Stellantis rebuild trust with its customers, workers, and communities? Or had it done irreparable damage to a brand that had once stood for so much? The crisis of identity left Jeep at a crossroads, and its future remained uncertain. The trust that Jeep once enjoyed from its loyal customers, employees, and even the broader market was one of its greatest assets. For decades, Jeep represented reliability, toughness, and authenticity. People didn't just buy Jeeps, they bought into a legacy, a promise that their vehicle could handle whatever life threw at it. But under Stellantis, that trust began to erode. Customers who paid premium prices for vehicles like the Wagoneer felt deeply betrayed. They weren't just buying a car, they were making an investment in what they believed was the pinnacle of American engineering. Yet, reports of water leaks, dashboard malfunctions, and premature wear on components told a different story. A brand once synonymous with quality and durability was now seen as cutting corners. As one disgruntled customer put it, Jeep is trying to play in the luxury league, but it doesn't even understand the rules. This disillusionment wasn't limited to Jeep's customers. Workers on the factory floor, many of whom had spent decades building Jeeps, also began to lose faith in the company. They saw firsthand how quality was sacrificed for speed and how management prioritized shareholder profits over craftsmanship. Employees described a culture shift, one where pride in their work was replaced by frustration and a sense of being undervalued. The erosion of trust extended to Jeep's dealership network as well. Dealerships found themselves stuck with inventory that wasn't selling, leaving showroom floors crowded with unsold models. For dealers, this wasn't just a financial headache, it was a reputational blow. They were the face of Jeep in local communities, and they had to answer to customers who were increasingly dissatisfied with their purchases. The question now was whether Stellantis could regain this trust. Trust, once lost, is notoriously difficult to rebuild, especially when the damage has been so public. Jeep was no longer seen as the dependable, rugged brand of the past. It had become a cautionary tale about what happens when corporate greed takes precedence over quality and tradition. As Jeep stumbled, its competitors wasted no time capitalizing on its missteps. Ford Motor Company, long a rival in the rugged vehicle space, leaned into its reputation for reliability and innovation. Models like the Ford Bronco and the F-Series trucks became instant hits, offering a blend of classic appeal and modern technology that Jeep had failed to deliver. Ford's approach was simple: stay true to its core audience while expanding its offerings to appeal to new buyers. By investing in electric vehicles and ensuring their gas-powered models met high-quality standards, Ford managed to grow its customer base without alienating its loyal fans. The Bronco in particular emerged as a direct competitor to Jeep's Wrangler, and many former Jeep customers found themselves drawn to Ford's more consistent quality and competitive pricing. General Motors followed a similar path, emphasizing its American roots and dedication to craftsmanship. The Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra became key players in the rugged vehicle market, while the company's focus on electric trucks positioned it as a leader in sustainability. Where Stellantis faltered, General Motors thrived, offering customers a sense of stability and reliability that Jeep could no longer provide. Tesla also took advantage of the shifting landscape, though in a different way. As the undisputed leader in electric vehicles, Tesla offered an entirely new kind of adventure, a future-focused, environmentally conscious experience. Models like the Tesla Cybertruck weren't direct competitors to Jeep's lineup, but they captured the imagination of buyers looking for something different. Tesla's innovation made Jeep's offerings feel outdated and uninspired by comparison. The ripple effects of Jeep's decline extended beyond these traditional automakers. New players in the off-road and luxury markets emerged, carving out niches that Jeep once dominated. Brands like Rivian, with its sleek, adventure-ready electric vehicles, offered a compelling alternative for buyers disillusioned with Jeep's quality issues and high prices. For Stellantis, the success of its competitors was a stark reminder of what Jeep had lost. Its rivals hadn't just taken Jeep's customers, they had taken its identity as well. Jeep's struggles weren't just a blow to its reputation, they were a significant financial setback for Stellantis. Despite its aggressive cost-cutting measures, Stellantis found itself facing declining sales and rising inventories. The very strategies designed to boost profitability were now working against the company, creating a vicious cycle that was difficult to escape. The pricing strategy Stellantis adopted for Jeep, particularly for the Wagoneer, played a major role in its financial woes. By pushing Jeep into the luxury market, Stellantis alienated the brand's core audience. While high-margin vehicles like the Wagoneer were intended to maximize profits, their poor quality and high price tags led to weak sales. Customers who might have been willing to pay a premium for a truly luxury vehicle were turned off by the Wagoneer's flaws, and traditional Jeep buyers couldn't justify the cost. This miscalculation was compounded by the economic realities of the post-pandemic era. Inflation, rising interest rates, and shifting consumer priorities meant that buyers were more selective about how they spent their money. Jeep's high prices and declining quality made it an increasingly hard sell in a market where value mattered more than ever. Stellantis' financial troubles extended beyond Jeep. The company's reliance on aggressive cost-cutting and shareholder payouts left it with limited resources to address its deeper problems. Instead of reinvesting in quality control, innovation, or its workforce, Stellantis focused on short-term gains, leaving the company ill-prepared to weather the fallout from Jeep's struggles. The numbers told a sobering story. Stellantis' stock performance stagnated, and its market share in key segments began to erode. For Jeep, a brand that once symbolized strength and reliability, this decline was particularly painful. The financial toll wasn't just about lost revenue, it was about a lost future. Jeep's downfall under Stellantis wasn't just a story about one brand, it was a cautionary tale for the entire automotive industry. It highlighted the dangers of prioritizing short-term profits over long-term sustainability and the risks of losing sight of what makes a brand unique. For decades, Jeep had been more than just a car company. It was a cultural institution representing freedom, adventure, and American ingenuity. But Stellantis' decision showed how quickly a legacy could be dismantled when a brand strays too far from its roots. The automotive industry is at a crossroads. The shift to electric vehicles, changing consumer expectations, and global economic pressures are forcing companies to adapt like never before. Jeep's struggles under Stellantis illustrate what can happen when adaptation is driven by greed rather than vision. Cost-cutting and efficiency may boost profits in the short term, but they can't replace the trust and loyalty that come from delivering quality and staying true to a brand's identity. Jeep's story also raised larger questions about the future of American manufacturing. Can traditional automakers compete in a rapidly globalizing market, or will they continue to lose ground to newer, more innovative players? The decisions Stellantis made with Jeep provide a stark warning. Innovation and loyalty cannot be sacrificed on the altar of cost-cutting. As Jeep faces the challenge of rebuilding its identity, the broader industry is watching closely. Jeep's struggles are a reminder that no brand, no matter how iconic, is immune to the consequences of poor leadership and misplaced priorities. Jeep's journey under Stellantis has been a cautionary tale, but the story isn't over yet. Despite the setbacks, Jeep still holds a powerful legacy, a name that evokes adventure, resilience, and freedom. For Jeep to reclaim its position as an industry leader, Stellantis must take bold steps to rebuild the trust of its workers, customers, and the automotive world. The first step toward redemption is acknowledging the mistakes that led to Jeep's decline. Stellantis must confront the failures of its leadership, from cost-cutting measures that undermined quality to the misguided attempt to reposition Jeep as a luxury brand. Transparency will be critical. Customers need to know that Stellantis understands the gravity of its missteps and is committed to making meaningful changes. Investing in quality is non-negotiable. Jeep vehicles must once again embody the rugged durability and reliability that built the brand's reputation. Stellantis needs to ensure that every vehicle rolling off the assembly line meets the highest standards of craftsmanship. This means reinvesting in workers, restoring morale on the factory floor, and prioritizing quality over production speed. A Jeep should feel like it can conquer any terrain, and its owners should believe in its dependability. Finally, Jeep must re-establish its presence as an American icon. Stellantis should demonstrate a renewed commitment to domestic manufacturing, reinvesting in American plants and workers. The Belvidere assembly plant closure left a lasting scar, but reopening facilities like it could symbolize a fresh start. By bringing jobs back to American communities, Jeep can rebuild not only its workforce but also its identity as a brand deeply rooted in the United States. Jeep's future is far from certain, but its story is a reminder of the importance of trust, innovation, and staying true to a brand's values. Do you think Stellantis can save Jeep, or has the damage already been done? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you believe Jeep needs to do to reclaim its legacy? We'd love to hear your take.